welcome everyone to the very first Dragon Cast. I am your host, Hail Zeon, and with me is my co-host, the always lovely Miss Mozilla Vulpix.
Hello.
Yes. Okay, so for anyone who's wondering, what the hell's a Dragon Cast? This title tells me nothing.
What is a Dragon Cast, Zeon?
Yeah, basically the idea is that Gabby and I are going to go week by week watching 4 episodes of Dragon Ball and just talk about it. Talk about the show, just kind of talk about the episodes, what we thought about them, reflecting back on them, having seen them again, and just, highlight things. Basically kind of like very casual reviews of episodes of Dragon Ball, and we're just gonna keep on going for who knows how long. Maybe we'll even, if we get to the end of Dragon Ball, we'll go to Z. If we get to the Z, we'll go to GT. If we get to the end of GT, we'll cycle right back to Super.
But Zeon, nobody talks about Dragon Ball. You can't watch Dragon Ball and just talk about it. You have to be critical and overanalyze things and talk about why this thing isn't as good as the other thing.
Well, yeah. I mean, you have to be overly critical. You also have to talk about power levels, versus matches, and how in Dragon Ball characters are able to do this, but in Super they can only do this. Plot holes. Yeah.
I think we had to do the annual complaining about things and complaining about what people want us to do, because that's probably going to happen anyway. Don't worry about it. Just ignore everything I just said. We're not making fun of anyone.
We're not? Oh, okay. Well, you're not. I don't know. I probably am. I don't even know anymore. I live in this cycle of, snark and sarcasm and irony, and it's really kind of hard for me to remember where, my genuine feelings begin and end, and where the sarcasm begins and ends.
And see, this is why we need to this is why something like this is important. I feel like people don't really just watch the series anymore, watch the original series and just talk about it in terms of, what it is, and not in terms of, big overlying questions about fandoms and rankings and scores and what's your favorite arc and blah 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 blah. So that's why I think it's fun. We just watch episodes, we take the episodes for what they are and what we thought we liked about them, completely at least attempting to detach it from any sort of nostalgia and stuff like that.
Yeah, just because especially because as you mentioned, nobody ever talks about Dragon Ball. Everyone's always going on to the new hotness, the Super, whatever game is coming out. No one just kind of goes back to just reflect on the old series, except for Mr. Fusion. He is the champion of this fandom. I salute that man and his dedication. Because, he could easily just go ahead and jump straight to Super if he wanted, and just start, doing Dragon Ball dissections to Super. No, that man is staying on a course, and I have infinite respect for him. But yeah, so for full disclosure's sake, this is actually our second attempt recording this. We tried to record it a little under a week ago, and Gabby had some audio issues because she was using an old laptop, because her current one was being repaired, you said?
Yeah, it was being repaired. I used a spare one, and it's everything started off fine, but then about 20 minutes in, my audio started becoming completely inaudible, and so we couldn't really salvage it. And so if we sound a bit tiresome when we're doing things and saying this stuff, it might have been because we technically have said this stuff before, and it didn't work, and very frustrating. I am praying to the IT gods that the same issue won't happen again.
So Kami up in the heavenly realm, please shine your benevolence upon us. Please let this audio turn out all right.
Yeah, exactly. Pray to whatever god. Actually, I mean, at this point in the series that we're talking about, early Dragon Ball, we don't know about any gods, so,
True. This is before there's even a pantheon.
Exactly.
All we knew is that we had these 7 MacGuffins, and this kid who was really strong, for some reason, who had a tail, for some reason, and this girl who was fairly intelligent, and seemed to have unlimited disposable income. So, yeah. It's with none of this really explained. So, yeah. Anyhow, the first 4 episodes, episode 1, what the hell is it called? Just Bulma, I think it's just Bulma and Son Goku.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's... Oh, man, every time I go back and watch early Dragon Ball, it's always kind of, a really pleasant experience, because not just because of like the simplicity of the whole thing. Just like, oh, it's Dragon Ball in its purest form. It's beautiful. It's like I'm always surprised by like the animation, because I always remember Toei having bad animation. Like Toei always felt like they were like 5 years behind everyone else, and it sounds mean, but they kind of are. Like if you compare like Dragon Ball to like Zeta Gundam or like Dirty Pair and other shows of the 80s, those shows look leagues better than Dragon Ball does, especially very early Dragon Ball does. But like it doesn't look bad. Like I always kind of like always a little apprehensive. Like, all right, gonna jump into like some early Toei stuff, and I'm like, actually, these are really on model, and like, the animation isn't like super fluid, but it's really nice, and there's like some good like directing here, and like especially like in this first episode, because it's animated by Minoru Maeda, who is the grand champion animator, I would say, of the entire Dragon Ball franchise. He's my favorite dude. I think he does these characters the most justice.
Oh yeah, at least in terms of like, staying on model, and like, because he was also like, he was the character designer for early Dragon Ball, right? So it's like, you hope that it would look good, or at least look consistent in the same way. Even if people don't like Yamamuro nowadays, Yamamuro in the 90s, and even in an episode that's supervised by Yamamuro, which was like one of them in Super, you expect it to be consistent, all the characters.
Yeah, and like, especially like the thing I love about Maeda, because like, Dragon Ball gets some really great animators later on, but like, I feel like as far as like Toriyama's early style, that more rounder, more sketchier kind of look to like the characters, like that softer look that Toriyama had back then, I feel like Maeda really just captures that look that Toriyama had in the manga, and he just really brings it to life like no one else does. Once Toriyama starts getting a little bit more angular, a little bit sleeker in his designs, I would say like the other animators that they were getting on at that time either were just better suited for that kind of animation than they were Toriyama's kind of pudgier designs, or they just got different animators, maybe just the animators were just naturally improving. But Maeda, though, just comes right out of the gate, and it's just, like I said, he just does it so much justice. I'm curious, I imagine he has to have worked on Dr. Slump. Like, I need to look that up at some point.
Yeah, I feel like he must have. Like, I remember looking up some stuff earlier, and Shinsuke Kikuchi's score, Shinsuke Kikuchi, he worked on Dr. Slump. He did the score for Dr. Slump before he did the score for Dragon Ball. So clearly there's quite a lot of like overlap there, and like, like Toei's Dr. Slump group that did all the stuff with Dr. Slump presumably just kind of all went straight onto Dragon Ball because it was another Toriyama property, and it was sort of similar in tone-ish and kind of similar in character designs. But yeah, I don't know for sure. I don't know enough about Dr. Slump's production team. That's not nearly as well catalogued, I feel.
Yeah, I just Googled it. Yeah, he is the... Let's see, Minoru Maeda is a Japanese animator and character designer. He was the Dr. Slump and Arale-chan, Dragon Ball, and early Dragon Ball Z character designer. Yep. So yeah, he has been there. He has been there since the beginning. So of course, this man has like mastered bringing Toriyama's vision to life. It's great stuff. I definitely just love, like I said, just the life he brings into Toriyama's designs. And I really, like, as far as like this first episode goes, I think it's like a really strong first episode. I think it gets a lot of your basic stuff out of the way. We get to meet Bulma, Goku, we get to meet the Pilaf gang, even though it's filler. And, we get like the MacGuffins, like the Dragon Balls, and we kind of get a feel for both Bulma and Goku's character, like, basically setting the foundation for who these two characters are, what their personalities are like, and what their dynamic together is going to be.
I mean, it is honestly, it's a very interesting first episode, and especially if you compare it to stuff that happens later on in the series. Like, I feel like this is almost just like a Shonen Jump thing in general, that like the first chapter, the first episode, like the beginning of the story is always like, is almost like never what actually ends up like becoming the focus of the story. Like something like, I mean, or maybe it's just more like something like, I don't know. Actually, you know what? I don't even know what I'm saying. Maybe not, but it's just like...
Honestly, I do agree with that, because, like, Shonen Jump, like, their stories it's kind of like one of the things that kind of makes them hard for like adapting into movies. I've noticed is that like Shonen Jump stories usually start like the first chapter introduces like the protagonist and maybe like a co-star to like to the series, and then like each chapter after that will introduce like one new character, one new story, like, and it's just they're usually like these sequential little mini arcs that they'll introduce. And then after everything's set in place, then it just starts sprawling out into bigger stories. Like where Bleach begins and ends is completely different. Where Naruto begins and ends is completely different. What's another good example of that? Yu Yu Hakusho definitely does not end anywhere like where it begins.
Oh, yeah. Oh my god, that was probably what I was thinking about. Yeah, I was trying to think of like the examples that start off a completely different story. But yeah, Yu Yu Hakusho is definitely one of those. It's supposed to be about about Yusuke as a girl who's trying to get back to life, and then he gets back to life, and then suddenly spirit detectives, and then suddenly it becomes a shonen action series with demons and whatnot. I think one of the ones that few things where like the first chapter I feel like is kind of consistent to what the series is like One Piece, where it is still about like Luffy's backstory, and that's still kind of the same no matter what and how far it goes. Although to be fair, I'm not caught up with One Piece in any sort of conceivable way, so maybe not. But it's like I do find the first episode interesting, mostly just because of like how kind of relatively almost slow it is. Like there's a lot of stuff where it is just Goku going around and mucking about in the wilderness, and it's something that almost has become a kind of defining part of Dragon Ball, and that like the first part of Dragon Ball Z, the first episode of Dragon Ball Z did the same thing, but they replaced Goku with Gohan kind of to show how different they were. But it is just honestly kind of odd, because it's like, especially in other stories nowadays, where like they kind of want to kind of explain, get to like the action and the stuff that everyone sort of wants to see as soon as possible. But here it's just like, so like they spend a long time just sort of showing you this is Goku. Goku is a kid who lives in the wilderness, and he eats lots of fish and bears, and he is really strong, I guess. It is honestly like it's a fun opening, and I really enjoy it. But especially when you compare it later on in the series, it is one of those things where it's like, wow, things really do change.
Yeah, definitely. And it's kind of, it wasn't until like years and years later that I realized the first episode of Dragon Ball Z was meant to parallel the first episode of Dragon Ball, because
only about half of it. The other half is like about Raditz, and that actually is manga material.
Yeah, but like the whole Gohan, well, because I mean, like, just how it, like, like that, like the first part of it, is like it is like it's half Gohan centric, and I never really thought about how like that was supposed to parallel, because like when I first saw that episode uncut, because the original broadcast version, they edited the first two episodes together, so all that Gohan stuff was never there originally.
Oh, okay.
In the American broadcast. And when the season sets, actually no, not even when the season sets came out, when the ultimate uncut single DVD releases were coming out, when Funimation finally started dubbing the Saiyan arc, and they started putting out those uncut box sets, or not even box sets, like I said, single volumes, that was my first time getting to see that. And seeing that, I was just like, I was so bored originally. I was like, oh, come on. Like, why am I seeing all this gay Gohan stuff?
Of course.
Like, oh, I was such a Dragon Bro. I was just like, I want to see, like, the fighting. I want to see Raditz do cool shit, man.
Who wants to see a 4-year-old boy getting scared about everything? Says everyone.
But, like, in retrospect, like, whenever I went and watched, like, a couple of years after that, after I had already rewatched Dragon Ball, I was just like, oh shit, this was meant to be, like, a parallel to show how, like, put Gohan in a very similar situation of, yeah, here he is, out in the woods, interacting with nature, and he's a pussy, which is the complete opposite of Goku, where Goku, you see him, he's laughing, he's completely fearless, he's this complete, in his element, jungle boy, and it really does, like, it definitely shows the divide between those two characters. But yeah, just seeing Goku in this, though, like, I love the opening to this episode where you just get to see him, like, he goes and, like, breaks up some wood. You know, you see him swinging through the jungle. You see him fishing. You just see Goku just, like, the first 5 minutes is just Goku doing the normal Goku things you would imagine this little jungle boy doing.
Well, I mean, it's not the normal Goku things, because obviously, at this point, you've got to have the conception that nobody actually knows who Goku is.
True. Yeah.
So you have this mysterious person. You don't know who he is. In fact, you don't even know his name is Son Goku until like he meets Bulma, and he says that when they're walking to his house. So it's like this mysterious stranger is going around, and you slowly find out stuff about him. You find out that he's very in tune with nature. You find out he's clearly very strong if he can just punch wood into like millions of pieces. Well, a few dozen pieces with his bare hands,
and he picked up Bulma's car while she was still in it.
Exactly, that as well. And it's like they kind of sort of slowly sort of show you things in a very kind of like, show don't tell fashion. They show us what Goku is as opposed to explaining to us who Goku is, and it's like it makes him a very fascinating character. I also do kind of wonder if this is one of those things like were. In terms of like thinking about this retrospectively, like were people curious about the tail and about the super strength? Like, was this the kind of thing where people did actually wonder if there was like an explanation behind it, like you do kind of have in Dragon Ball Z, or was it just like everyone was so used to like crazy stuff in Dr. Slump, like the talking animal people and the pterodactyls, that Goku you don't really think too like hard about what Goku is?
Yeah, like I imagine like I don't know how people would have reacted, because I imagine if you know in advance that you're going into a Journey to the West parody in the beginning,
true, yeah,
then you would look at him and go, oh, he's Sun Wukong, I get it, he has the monkey tail. And the series does make a point to be like, this kid has like a monkey tail. That's weird.
True.
But on the flip side of that, though, the Dragon Ball world is completely weird, because you have like regular animals that talk, and then you have like animal hybrid people that talk, and they're like upright wearing clothes, but it's like a pig boy, but he's a person also.
Don't forget the pterodactyls. We have pterodactyls that talk.
Yeah, the pterodactyl talks. He's a chatty little guy too. So yeah, it's just, and which is really weird, because later on, a lot of, animals will just stop talking at some point. Like, I'm not sure when it starts happening, but I think pretty much, like, shortly after this arc, animals will just stop talking entirely, except for
there's some animals in the Red Ribbon.
Huh?
There's some animals in the Red Ribbon Army.
Yeah, and there's, like, furry people, but there's, like, I'm talking about, like, animals, like how you have, like, that talking gator, or, like, the talking dolphin that's gonna show up later on, and there's just like just normal animals, like sea turtle. Like sea turtle talks.
Oh yeah.
But like he talks, but it's already been established that animals can talk in this world. Like shortly after that, we don't have talking animals anymore. Nobody talks to animals, and it's just, wait, what? Why aren't the animals talking anymore? But like they already introduced Sea Turtle as a character, so they can't like make him untalk. He just talks now, so he's like the only talking animal. He's like the lone Meowth of the Dragon Ball franchise later on.
The Dragon Ball universe is so weird, especially in the earlier parts of the series.
It's almost as if it were just written by the seat of the pants of like I don't know, like a comedy writer, and then just at some point he decided to start doing action. Just
kind of randomly. It started off as a very, very loose parody of a Chinese fable, and then it just spiraled out to something completely different. Which is something we were talking about in our original recording, which is something I thought was worth noting, and that is like the whole Son Goku, Sun Wukong connection, as well as Bulma and Tripitaka, where it's like it's pretty common knowledge that, at least I'm sure most of you guys know, that at least the first arc of Dragon Ball has kind of sort of very sort of loose connections to Journey to the West, and it was the thing that we were wondering was just sort of like how quickly did people figure it out that this was supposed to be a Journey to the West parody?
Yeah, I wonder how apparent that would have been. I imagine if you were reading the manga, you already knew, but like, because Sun Wukong and Son Goku are not the same name. Like Son Goku is how you would read the Chinese characters in Japanese, because you know the way the Japanese, because they had like the exact same alphabet, but how those symbols are read are completely different. Kind of like how like you know like in America we have like the exact same alphabet as like Mexico, but they'd read those letters differently. They pronounce these letters differently, and in Japan it's kind of sort of a similar thing where they have the exact same symbols, but they pronounce them differently. So when you have the symbols for Sun Wukong, in Japanese, it's pronounced, like it's read as Sun Goku. So I wonder like how blatant that really would have been to like a reader, because like I think it even has like the little katakana or whatever above the kanji to let you know that his name is pronounced Sun Goku and not Sun Wukong.
No, because I think like Son Goku is literally what Sun Wukong is called in any sort of Japanese version of the story. So I think that's kind of like I feel like that's sort of a thing where like if you have any passing knowledge of Journey to the West, oh, it's Son Goku. It's literally Son Goku.
Right.
That's why he has a monkey tail. Oh, okay. But then stuff like Bulma.
So yeah, maybe it was way more apparent. But then again, you also have to think the show's made for kids. So how many kids are going to know that this is...
How well known is Journey to the West actually in Japan? This is one of those things where it's like, yeah, I wish I knew more context behind this, because I really don't. And sometimes I do want to kind of like educate myself more. Like this is the thing that I think is really important. Like, I don't necessarily know absolutely every minute detail about Dragon Ball, but I'm always willing to learn more, and that's kind of partially almost like when we're talking about this stuff, we constantly think of more things about stuff that we just don't know.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, like the first episode, I think it's a good, strong episode. Let's see. Like I said, it introduces Goku and Bulma. So something that is anime exclusive. Well, there's a couple things that are anime exclusive, but this episode right out of the gate establishes that the Dragon Balls glow when you get them together. And that's an anime-only thing. That's not in the manga. And that's really kind of cool that, like, in the anime, they came up with this idea, just kind of this little visual representation, and then it just continues all the way. And, through Z, through GT, through Super, they've always had that consistency of they're this one little anime exclusive thing that they did in the first episode, and they just ran with it ever since. And it's just like to the point to where I don't think a lot of people would remember that the Dragon Balls don't glow in the manga.
It is
probably because he really couldn't really represent that very well in black and white manga.
Probably, but yeah, it is one of those interesting things because like a filler. I feel like you and I at this point are probably going to get kind of a bit conflicted on filler, because it's like you're more of an anime watcher, when I'm sort of prefer the manga a bit more. So like a lot of the time for me, filler, it's like a lot of filler even in early Dragon Ball. It's just like probably also because I know the manga. I can instantly tell when this filler is happening, and I'm just like, oh, it just feels like they're overly elaborating on things that didn't need to be elaborated on it. But, like, obviously that thing is, like, it's completely inoffensive. The one piece of filler that obviously is in this episode, it's like, I kind of like it and I don't like it, is the stuff with Pilaf, where it's like, I think it's kind of clever editing, because they have, like, Pilaf is talking about the Dragon... It's like, in the middle of Bulma's talking about the Dragon Balls, they cut to Pilaf finding a Dragon Ball and then talking about the Dragon Balls, and it cuts back, and it's like very clever, sort of like at the simultaneous thing to kind of tell you about the Dragon Balls. It just leads to a whole bunch of questions, like the fact that Pilaf doesn't seem to know what the Dragon Balls do, and then Mai tells him about it, and then you're like, wait, so Pilaf doesn't know about the Dragon Balls, but Mai does, and then that's like raises this whole bunch of questions, and it's like, it's one of those things where, like, filler, where I feel like it just raises so many more questions and gives you answers to things, but... So it's...
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see where you're coming from with that. I definitely look on the filler a bit more fondly, because I am more of an anime guy than I'm a manga guy, as you put it. And, yeah, like, the Pilaf filler, I thought it was really clever, because I'm pretty sure that dialogue that Mai has is basically just from Bulma's dialogue in the manga, because I think in the manga, Bulma just explains all of that herself. And then in the anime, they break it up like Bulma starts it, Mai continues it, Bulma ends it. Like, that whole explanation. And I thought that was kind of a clever way to integrate Pilaf in there. I'm fine with Pilaf not knowing the specifics of it, because he has Dragon Balls like, oh cool, I can make my wish, and then Mai has to be like, no, we need all 7, blah blah blah, and she goes into that part of it, and I'm fine with that because I could see Pilaf being a short-sighted idiot who was just like he hears the legend of the Dragon Balls, we're gonna go hunt for the Dragon Balls, and he doesn't realize like either he doesn't read the full legend or because that is Pilaf. Pilaf is kind of short-sighted and incompetent, and we'll learn that as the series goes on.
Oh, definitely. He is. I mean, the Pilaf gang are still kind of like they are the pretty good starter villains because like they're still technically villains, but they're just completely incompetent. So
yeah, they are, as you put it in our previous recording, the Team Rocket of this arc. They show up, they get beaten up, and they leave. And
I was gonna say they're not normally the Team Rocket, but no, in this arc they actually are the Team Rocket because they do keep showing up like almost every episode. The first few episodes they keep showing up to try and get a Dragon Ball and it always fails, and it's like at this point you do wonder, it's just like they're just getting blasted off again.
Yep, it's pretty consistent with that. But yeah, episode 1, it's a good episode. I like it. I thought like it introduces. I think it does a really good job of introducing us to this weird world that Toriyama's created. It's like, oh yeah, like, animals talk, or animal hybrid people, there's a monkey boy, sure. And it's like, oh yeah, also there's technology. Here's some Hoi-Poi capsules, which is still one of the coolest sci-fi thingies ever. Like, the Hoi-Poi capsules just make the story just, one, a bit more unique than anything else that's out there. And also just, it was a really good way for Toriyama to integrate things like travel. Like, oh, well, Goku wrecked Bulma's car. Oh, that's okay. Boof. There's a motorcycle.
We've got another, we've got a motorbike, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, it's just like, we need a place to stay. Poof. Like, here's a house. So yeah, I thought like the Hoi-Poi capsule is probably one of the most ingenious things Toriyama's ever come up with. And yeah, it's so great. I will say though, one sticking point for me is going to be, Goku can take bullets. His guard was totally down, Gabby.
No. I know what this is going to be.
What is up with this? I mean, super clearly depicts that Goku, if his guard is down, he's gonna get scratched by bullets. Here, he's just tanking them like a champ. Alright, now that I got that joke out of my system, you can expect it like 10 more times throughout the course of this arc, I'm sure, as we talk about Dragon Ball. on episode 2.
Oh wait, just before we finish episode 1, there's just one thing that really kind of I realized about episode 1. I swear I did not realize before, and that is that like the end of episode 1 is actually just like this extended ending to a gag where basically, when after Goku and Bulma go off with the adventure, Bulma goes off because she has to pee. And when she goes off to pee, then she gets captured by the pterodactyl, and then Goku goes off to rescue her. And then when Goku does rescue her, and it's like a whole big thrilling chase where where Bulma's like falling and is almost going to die, but then Goku saves her. And she gets so scared that then she wets herself, and then she's just like, I basically ended up peeing after all. And so it is basically just the end to that, basically the start of that joke, the start of that situation. I was like, I didn't realize just how kind of self-contained that whole sort of story was. And I'm like, okay, that's really cool. I didn't realize it until I saw that last time when we were going to do the podcast. So yeah, that's just something I wanted to note.
Yeah, and that is like a great little gag. I enjoy it as well. Also, I love how, because you're talking about like how the gag kind of carries over. It's the end to like a setup that was set up much earlier. Because yeah, like that the setup for that gag is at like the end of Act 2, like the end of Act 2, or maybe even like the beginning of Act 3. Like it's still like in the last third of it. Starts with like the last third of the episode, and then is like resolved after the big action sequence and, like, Goku trying to rescue Bulma. Which I love how, like, Goku gets tied up and the fucking pterodactyl takes off with Bulma and she's just like, save me, you idiot! He goes, oh, why did you just tell me you wanted to be saved? And he just unropes himself and just goes after her. But yeah, like, it is a great little setup, and we'll see later on, like, even within these episodes, that Toriyama is in it for like the long haul with certain gags, where he'll put the setup for a gag, and then it'll pay off later, and it's good stuff. In fact, which leads us into episode 2. Unless you had anything else to say about episode 1.
No, that was pretty much it.
Yeah. Episode 2, probably the most juvenile, crass episode of Dragon Ball anything. This is the notorious My Balls, or Your Balls episode. And it's full of so much childish, crass humor. You have, Goku walking around with his penis hanging out. You have, Bulma talking about how, boys have tails? But I thought they only had those in the front. And what was it, Bulma having butts on her chest, and then, of course, the no balls scene. The anime adds in, a Pilaf fart joke, which normally I'd be like, oh, come on, Dragon Ball, you're better than that. But honestly, after everything else that's actually from the manga that shows up in this episode, I was like, never mind, it's fine. Whatever.
I was gonna say that this episode made me decide to do, two things, and basically do a running counter. And one of them is the Goku's dick counter. Every time we get to see Goku's dick. And also a panty shot counter every time we see Bulma's panties. So, or close to panties, or no panties at all. So, that I might be able to continue that on, because it is, those are just these recurring jokes that even in the manga they keep doing it, and it's like you gotta just take a shot every time it happens.
Right. I don't know if I really want to take a shot every time Bulma's panties are exposed in Dragon Ball. I'll be dead within the hour. Because, hell, I mean, there's, an entire scene in episode 1 of her just being like, here, want to touch my panties? And you're just like, why would I want to touch your dirty old butt? It's great. But yeah, episode 2, it's full of, like I said, so much juvenile humor, but I don't know, it's funny. I enjoy, it kept me laughing. Even, going back to it, I still chuckle at the absurdity of some of these scenes. Especially one of my personal favorites is Goku going to take his bath and Bulma being like, at least cover your front. And he just takes the towel and puts it over his face. And he's like this. And Bulma just looks at the camera and just, It's one of my favorite fourth wall breaks. It's so good. Here we also find out that Goku is supposedly 14.
That doesn't last. Spoilers.
Yeah, that's not gonna last for long.
That is basically one of those few things that is essentially retconned out, where it's oh no, he was always 12. He just thought he was 14 because he thought that's what came after 11. So, but it does seem in the original part of the story, the intention was for Goku to be 14, even though he doesn't really look 14. Yeah. But that's another story.
Well, I mean, to be fair though, he is very Slump proportioned, because if you look at Dr. Slump, the manga and the anime and whatnot, those characters are very stubby. They're really short for even the adults, and I feel like in Dragon Ball, he just started giving characters more normal human proportions. Bulma has normal human proportions, and you just have Goku, who's still a Dr. Slump character, and he's knee high to her.
Even with Dr. Slump though, wasn't it just some of the other characters Akane and Taro, they kind of still sort of grow up a bit, but then obviously Arale, since she's a robot, still stays the same short height the entire time. I don't know. So maybe that's kind of the thing, but it's obviously Goku's not a robot. Maybe once again it was still kind of this sort of, because Goku is so weird, he's just really short despite being 14. And obviously Toriyama didn't know about the Saiyan stuff, but it's the fact that they start saying that that's retroactively a Saiyan trait is one of those things where it's okay, no, this makes sense, I can understand this.
Yeah, I kind of like how every so often Toriyama will kind of go back up and elaborate on certain things in the continuity that didn't quite make it kind of little things that made you go, huh, that's kind of, because when he started tossing those details out, it's at weird points in the story. The whole Saiyan aging thing doesn't come in until the very end of the manga. That's in the last, the second to last chapter, Vegeta drops that piece of information. And then the very specifics on how Saiyans age, how they they, hit adolescence, they stay in adolescence for a prolonged period of time, and then once they start nearing adulthood, they rapidly age into adults, and then after they're adults, they just kind of stay young adults until their old age. And that's, like that whole spiel doesn't even come into play until he did Jocko, which was like 20 years later.
Oh yeah, no, wasn't that did come from Jocko? Jeez. Okay, I didn't think about that, but yeah, it is interesting, and so it's also obviously one of those things that starts making you think as like in this part of the story, do you treat Goku like he's 12 or like he's 14? Because it's like if you're going at but like if you're sort of looking at it in a retrospective way, then maybe you should look at it like he's 14. But if you're doing it with like knowing other things in the story, it's like maybe we should look at it like he's 12. It's like also when people look at Dragon Ball when they say that like, oh, Goku's pretty weak for a Saiyan because the other Saiyans can do this, but then it's like, so should you look at early Dragon Ball with the conception that Z exists and that was always supposed to be part of the story, or do you look at early Dragon Ball like these kind of self-contained adventures that only spiral out later on?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't have a problem with Goku's level of power. Like honestly, like I have more of an issue with the character's powers now, where like everyone's on these ridiculously upper echelons of power, and like even like a character like Kaba, who doesn't have all the training, who had never gone Super Saiyan until like the tournaments happened.
I thought we weren't supposed to be talking about Super yet.
I know, but I'm just saying though, like it's I don't have a problem with Goku's level of power. I have more of like an issue with like the power creep that happens later in the franchise, where these characters start hitting ridiculous.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah. The issue there is it's the complete opposite issue. It's not that Goku is too weak; it's that everyone else gets too strong by that point, and blah 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 blah. It's not an issue, but it's one of those things because like I personally, when I look at Dragon Ball, when I look at earlier parts of the series, I don't really let stuff that happens later on kind of retroactively change my judgment on it. So like I kind of look at the stuff thinking that Goku is 14 and he is this weird character with a monkey tail and nobody knows why, and there's no assumption that there is going to be an explanation, and I just kind of take it for what it is.
Yeah, I mean that's a perfectly valid way to read it or watch it. Yeah. Something I wanted to bring up because I know you're not a fan of the filler, but like we got some more peel-off filler here, and this really kind of like establishes the dynamic with the peel-off gang, as like peel-off is the leader, and then the other two are his loyal servants. But that makes me really start wondering. I'm like who the fuck is Peel-Off? Why does he have a castle in the middle of nowhere? And why are these like two like grown adults like his servants? Like why did they? Because like she feels like a fully capable adult. Okay, fine, she's not. She's just as dumb as the other two. Don't let her character design fool you, people. She is just as incompetent and retarded as the other two members of the Peel-Off gang. But you would think at some point they'd be like, man, fuck this, because he's like really vicious to them at times, like threatening to like feed them to alligators or pulling out a chainsaw and threatening to split Shu in half if he doesn't take the fall for Peel-Off farting. It's like, I mean, it's a ridiculous, over top, hilarious scene, but at the same time, I'm like, why are you putting up with this little sociopath?
When Peel-Off gang backstory, come on, guys.
Right, I'm really surprised that like Toriyama's never bothered. Like, I mean, I'm fine with them being what they are because they're gag characters. They are gag characters through and through. So them not having like a fleshed out backstory that kind of makes sense, I'm fine with. I just find that their dynamic is really really amusing. Like the headcanon I have just come up with them for is just like they all knew each other as kids, but like Peel-Off was like the alpha and they were like complete betas, and because like he was so alpha over them, they like looked up to him and thought he was super cool. And now they just kind of grew up under that mentality, and now they're grown adults and they have Stockholm syndrome and they just can't get away from Peel-Off.
My headcanon is more just like they're all just like basically orphans together, and then they sort of realized it was just safer to kind of stick together than work alone. That's my headcanon. Headcanon Peel-Off gang fan fiction story for the best characters. Like,
Peel-Off was the loudest and he had the largest vocabulary, so everyone was just like, oh, he must be the leader.
Exactly.
So they just kind of were like, okay.
Exactly. It's basically like that.
We also get... Okay, this episode also brings in Goku talking about how he doesn't have parents. His grandpa found him in the woods, and he doesn't really know what happened. He just knows that he was found abandoned in the woods, and his grandpa raised him and took care of him. And Goku, like, spouts off his origin in the most carefree way possible. He's just like, oh yeah, this is what happened to me. She's like, and Bulma's just like, that's really sad. It's just like, and Goku's like, meh. It's just Goku giving no fucks like Goku does.
Oh yeah, like it is interesting because obviously, yeah, like it's almost impossible to look into Dragon Ball without sort of being like, but Goku's an alien. We know he's an alien. So it's like this backstory. It is obviously until the Z area. This is like the only sort of explanation behind Goku that we ever get. He was abandoned as a baby, and he doesn't really know who his parents are. But he doesn't really mind. And then he also had a grandpa who raised him, but his grandpa died, and well, we find out how later on. But yeah, it is a very interesting kind of almost origin story, and it always just like fits Goku perfectly, where he's just like, yeah, so like I was abandoned as a baby, probably because I had a tail, but I don't really mind. And it's like that's the only kind of we don't really question it after that. Like that's just Goku. He's the kind of person where he can get abandoned by his parents, and he'll still just sort of make the most of his situation.
Yeah. I wonder if Toriyama had any plans on following, because like if Toriyama had any thoughts in his mind when he did that, because like I mean he very specifically made the point to get across that like Goku only had a grandfather, he was abandoned as a child, and nothing is known about his biological parents. So you would think like that's like that seems so oddly specific that like I feel like Toriyama. I feel like he must have had something planned in the beginning, and he just scrapped the idea because he was just like, whatever. Like, either he didn't like it or something. Because I feel like that's just, like, such an oddly specific detail about Goku's origin.
I mean, then again, it's like, if we talk about Journey to the West parodies, Sun Wukong doesn't have any parents. He was born from a rock, so...
Yeah. Maybe that was supposed to be his origin the entire time. Like he was going to be born of a rock.
Yeah, but maybe he had the same Sun Wukong origin. Who knows? But one thing about this episode,
maybe that's why Saiyan pods are like spherical, because they're metaphors for the rocks that gave birth to Sun Wukong.
Oh, you're getting some pretty crazy headcanon stuff here. I'm liking this.
So yeah, also, by the end of this episode, we get introduced to one of the most pivotal characters in the entire Dragon Ball franchise, Sea Turtle.
For a second I thought you were going to say farmer with shotgun.
Oh, no. No, we get Sea Turtle. He's a sea turtle. That is the entirety of Umigame's character. He's kind of prudish. And Bulma is like, I'm not going to help this stupid fucking turtle. And Goku's like, I'm going to go help this stupid fucking turtle. And then Bulma's just like, fuck, he has a Dragon Ball. Also, dinosaurs are really scary. I better go after this kid.
Because yeah, that's the one thing about the second episode. I think something that actually was really important, and we saw a bit of it in the first episode, but this episode really cemented it, and was just like sort of looking at Goku and Bulma's relationship. Because even though it is mostly just Goku doing what he wants, and Bulma sort of just looking at him weirdly the entire time, but it's like, still at the very least, you see that Bulma has at least some kind of care for Goku, even if it's like also coming from a complete selfish reason in that she kind of needs him to help her and protect her when she's going to get the Dragon Balls. Like just honestly, like some of the stuff when it's just like, Bulma getting Goku to like take a bath, and then them just like sort of talking and like asking about the parents, and it's like it's like almost like one of the closest sort of like character moments between Goku and Bulma, and it's like it's all the way in the second. It's like already in the second episode, but it's really nice to see them like interact. You get a really good grasp on like what these characters are and like how they bounce off each other, because they bounce off each other really well, not just for comedy.
Yeah, and yeah, definitely. Like I felt like this entire episode was about really just kind of really getting like the back and forth between these characters, how they interact. Bulma being kind of this teenage every girl, and Goku just being this kind of weird little monkey boy, and Goku's completely ignorant of the world around him, but he's genuinely good natured. He just wants to like go on adventures and have fun and do good things for good people. And Bulma's a little bit more selfish. She's a little bit more world weary. She's a little bit she's just a little,
she's just a spoiled teenage girl. Like, yeah. What do you expect?
Yeah,
a spoiled teenage girl with the ability to create and bring out as many vehicles as she managed to store and houses and everything. Like, when you see the stuff that Bulma does, you kind of sort of understand why she has that personality.
Yeah, and like this episode does a lot to really get the back and forth between Goku and really establish what they're, because like this is like just an entire episode of just downtime, which is really kind of cool. Just really kind of letting the characters sink in with the audience. I really enjoyed it, and it's like, because like one of my problems with the manga, and like the manga actually does have all this downtime, but like one of my problems with the manga is that I feel so often Toriyama is so interested in getting to like the next joke or the next story beat. He doesn't take a lot of breathing room with his characters, and it's one of the things that I like about the padding in early Dragon Ball is that a lot of like, it just kind of, spaces the scenes out a little bit, gives like, like the characters a little bit of extra back and forth dialogue, and just gives them like some breathing room. And like, I mean, and this was in the manga too, like this, like the second chapter was pretty much all breathing room, but like, it's really nice to just, just take a moment, just sit down with these characters, get to know them before we start really pushing them forward on their adventure.
And then, like, on the other opinion, some of the things that I don't like about the anime padding is sometimes I feel like it kind of has a habit of almost sort of, like, over-explaining something which was just sort of meant, and it kind of works better as, like, a one-off joke. The example, I think, is this sort of the kind of filler section here, padding section here, where Goku tries to get a wolf, and then that goes, Pilaf, Shu, and Maya. No, it's just Shu and Maya, and they're trying to find a Dragon Ball, and they think it's a Dragon Ball. It's actually a bunch of wolves, and then Goku attacks the wolves and saves them, and then that just all leads up to the point that that one of those wolves is something that Goku brings as dinner, and then Bulma is immediately terrified because she's like, oh, you don't eat wolves, that's disgusting. And it's weird because it's like, for me it was like one of those things where I feel like it worked better in the manga, because in the manga it's just like Goku just says, okay, I'm gonna go off to get some food, and then like immediately after he comes back with a wolf, and it's like, no, you don't know how he got the wolf, he just got the wolf, and that's kind of like what makes it work as kind of a joke.
I mean, I think it works both ways. I will say, I think the filler with them, like, I think it's fun, but I do think it's the weakest element of the episode overall. Like I would say, like, everything in this episode is like at least like a 4 out of 5, and then like the Shumai filler would be like that portion of it is like a 3 out of 5. But yeah, it's fine. Like, I still think the joke is still fully functional. It's just now you know where he got the wolf from, because I feel like even after that sequence, you don't know that Goku's just gonna drag back one of those wolves and eat it. Even though he does try to eat a friggin' jet plane because he thinks it's like a chicken or something. But yeah, no, like episode 3 or episode 2, it's alright. It's like I said, it's a good breather episode, and like really does a good job of establishing characters. Episode 3 continues on with, we need to get Sea Turtle to the sea so he can go see the Muten Roshi, and it
is probably one of the most kind of almost. I mean, to be fair, a lot of these stories in this first arc kind of like this, but this one especially is very much this sort of the most sort of like kind of classic sort of fairy tale-ish sort of martial artsy classical movie kind of wuxia kind of thing. It's just like, oh, look, we're just traveling along and we just happen to find this mysterious this stranger who needs our help. Why don't we go off and help him? But then, of course, with the difference being that Bulma actually doesn't want to help him, and Bulma here is the one who's kind of like reluctantly joined in. But it's like one thing interesting about episode 2 as well is that like Bulma doesn't help because she like sees the light of day and she realizes that the turtle needs her help and she has a change of heart. Like, she has a change of heart because she realizes that Goku left without giving her the Dragon Ball, and she needs to stick around with him. It's fun. It's this thing that I think Toriyama keeps using a lot of times when as long as the story keeps going. It's like he kind of takes these classic elements and then he puts a little twist on them, a kind of like twist that makes it like not exactly as natural and as like completely pure and innocent as you'd expect it. So in this case, it's like Bulma is the one sitting there being like, okay Goku, like we don't need to necessarily go and help this guy, but if we're going to help this guy, I want to get a reward as well, even though I didn't do anything.
Hey, she put herself in danger's way. She could have just stayed at home.
To be fair, if she also, She didn't know that she was also going to be. They were also going to all be attacked by a bear wielding a sword.
Yeah, like yeah, that man bear that shows up. Like originally, like I felt like he was so incredibly just tacked on. I was just like, oh, like because it almost feels like a filler scene. It's just like, and then they just like they're on their adventure to get to like to the sea, and then a man bear wielding a scimitar shows up, and then Goku murders that man bear in like cold blood. He shatters like the front of that sucker's skull, blood spurting everywhere, and he just drops him like a log.
Oh yeah, no, that surprised me so much. Just how like gruesome that attack was. Like, yeah, he punches him so hard that like you see blood, and it's like it's the third episode, and we're already seeing blood. I'm like, what? Obviously, standards were different in the Japanese television back in the 80s, but still, like, wow, Goku.
Just blood spraying. Maybe because also like a gag series, so it's meant to be viewed a bit sillier. But yeah, no, Goku killed that man bear, and like the weird thing is though is that like all the man bear wanted to do was eat Turtle. Like, and yeah, like Turtle's like this sentient being, you know, he has thoughts and things. Well, so did the piranha that like Goku ate in episode 1. That piranha could think and talk. Like, what makes Turtle like worth living over like the piranha? So really, like if at any point Goku thought that turtle looks tasty, he'd have eaten that turtle too. So really, Goku just like killed someone for doing something that Goku would have done had he thought, I want to eat that thing.
In fact, he actually does. Yeah, he does actually consider eating Turtle when the bear explains that the turtles really taste good. But then Turtle quickly says, "Oh no, Turtle tastes terrible," and Goku believes it. But if he didn't, who knows what would have happened? That's a what if for Quinn, and I'll tell that to Quinn. What if Goku ate the turtle?
It's like, God. Now I really want Quinn to make that video. Quinn, if you are listening, we need a what if Goku ate sea turtle video. only you can make this happen. But yes, Goku decides, out of the goodness of his heart, also because he thinks turtle would taste bad, to not eat sea turtle. And you know, he gets to the sea and he takes off and he's like, I'll be back. And then, as you put it, like, you know, it is this weird fantasy martial arts thing where just honestly, the sequence that I'm thinking about feels very video gamey. Like you meet a character and you do like a quest for them, and then at the end of the quest, it's like, oh well, like here's like the wise old man to like give you like a power up or a special item or a special equipment.
Oh, we're gonna fix the bridge for you.
Yeah, it's just, you know, it's just, yeah, and yeah. And like he really doesn't do anything particularly special like to push the narrative. Well, I mean, he has a Dragon Ball, but like his main I feel like his other main purpose though is to give Goku the Kinto-un, which, you know, it is a really important part of the series going forward. Like that's going to be Goku's #1 mode of transportation, and I feel like that happened. Well, one, because, you know, Sun Wukong had a flying cloud as well, but just Goku is going to need his own mode of transportation because, you know, because like whenever Goku starts going on his adventures, he's not going to know how to fly a jet or drive a car. So like, even though like, you know, it's clearly something that was pulled from the Journey to the West story, it really, really helps out narratively just have Goku be given this mode of transportation that is his exclusively.
Yeah, and it does make sense because yeah, in Journey to the West as well, it's just like, yeah, I'm pretty sure like he can like ride on the clouds and stuff, but then like everyone else sort of just travels, and I think Tripitaka has a horse, so it's like, yeah, it's like him kind of being off doing his own thing because he has his own mode of transport. He could just bail and go wherever he likes. And Bulma, as we find out, Bulma and most of the other members of the cast can't ride Kinto-un, so it is just Goku's.
Yeah. So the Muten Roshi. This is something that you had brought up, and
well, I mean, we should be calling him Kame-sennin.
Oh yeah, right. That's right. Yeah, because he isn't called the Muten Roshi yet. He is just he is just.
No, he's not. He right now he's just Kame-sennin. He's the turtle hermit.
Yeah, he is just the turtle hermit. That's all we know about him, is that he is just this wise old man who has a thing for the panties of 16-year-old girls. But, like, okay, so this is something that you brought up last time. This is something that, like, that I want to bring up again is, the Kame-sennin, is he the first pervert, like, old wise man? Like, did he start that trend?
Yeah, because it was something I was thinking about.
Because, like, I can't think of any others.
Exactly. It's like, though the only other, to be fair, I don't really know as much about, like, other stories that are, like, pre-Dragon Ball, but, like, the only other ones I can think of are ones that, like, you can clearly say they are inspired by Dragon Ball, like something like Jiraiya in Naruto or something like that. So,
yeah.
It's one of those things where it's just like, yeah, what I think about, because I think what I found interesting about Kame-sennin is that it's this continuing trend of, like, Toriyama doing this kind of classical, kind of almost fairy tale idea and then putting a kind of strange twist on it. And so in this case, it is that, yeah, oh, look, Goku, the heroes went and helped this random person on their quest, and as a result they get a reward. An old man comes and gives them the reward, this wise old person, but the difference is this wise old person, I mean, is a massive pervert, and he gives Goku a reward, but only gives Bulma a reward if she flashes him her panties. And then it also leads to a whole that really interesting, whole continuity joke where earlier on in the previous chapter, in the previous episode, Goku removes Bulma's panties, and then she goes off without having any panties, and then it leads to this whole shot where she lifts up her dress to the Muten Roshi, and then you see her bum, and you realize she still doesn't have any panties on.
Yeah.
And it also takes her until when we get back to, like, her house for her to notice it, and then just it is this gag that just keeps going on, and it keeps, like, accumulating each time, and it all just, like, culminates in Goku in Bulma realizing she had no panties on, and Goku explaining that he took them off because she thought he wanted to know why she didn't have any balls, and it leading to her shooting him in the face.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah, it is one of those gags. It's just it has so much payoff. It's such a brilliantly. Because, like, you think about it, it's just like, oh, Goku pulled her panties off, and then she flashes her vagina, and then she gets angry, and she starts shooting at Goku later. But, like, that's over the course of 2 whole episodes of anime. And, like, it is just, like, it is a gag, because, like the setup for the gag is a gag in itself, which is Goku having the freak out of, no balls, no balls. But then, you do have the Muten Roshi. It just keeps escalating. It's just like a little domino effect of just, cheesy pervert gags. But they're genuinely funny and really, really creative. And yeah, it's one of the best jokes written that I can think of. Like, I can't really think of anything else that has had a joke because, I mean, there's like a running gag, but this isn't even a running gag. It's a domino effect of gags, where just one gag triggers the next gag in the chain, and it's really, really well put together. Like, Toriyama really had a good grasp on humor, and it really shows here.
Like, it's personally not my style of humor. Obviously, I don't really find it as funny, but it's like, yeah, the way it is just so well constructed, and it's like it takes these things which you might think might be one-off gag things, and it continues and makes it a kind of an integral part of the story. And it's like kind of probably both like, I mean, like it explains the story. It's like part of the reason, like I think part of the reasons why the Muten Roshi is probably just so satisfied over giving her the Dragon Ball. It's just like, because he got way more than he bargained for because of this thing that happened last episode. It's like, oh god, it's like accidental. I mean, well, it's not accidental because it's one of those things where it's just great and it is purposely constructed like that. Like, good job, Toriyama. Thumbs up for us for the joke about Bulma's panties.
Yeah. So
I never thought I'd say that.
Right? Yeah. It's just like I said. Like, as far as panty gags go, it is the greatest panty gag in any anime or manga ever. It is top tier masterclass. It is the metric by where all other panty gags will ever be measured, and every panty gag that comes out after it is always going to fall short because you're never going to construct a better panty gag. Like he had made that in art form, and that was his panty gag magnum opus. It was great. Like, regardless if you find it funny, it is brilliantly constructed, and it keeps paying off. So yeah, that's pretty much episode 3. I would say the only other major thing from that is they get the 3-star ball from the Muten Roshi, and which he somehow found at the bottom of the ocean like 100 years ago. 100 years ago he found that Dragon Ball, And so which I find kind of interesting because that means that Dragon Balls haven't been used in over 100 years.
I mean, like, that makes sense.
So, yeah.
Because, I mean, with Bulma's Dragon Radar, like, the implication is kind of like it's very sort of new technology, and like and even later on when they have things that are kind of like Dragon Radars, like none of them are like as good as Bulma's. So it's just like you find it also later, you sort of find this out later on in the series, like Bulma kind of accidentally sort of just breaks all of the laws of the universe by being just so good at inventing whatever the plot demands it.
Yeah.
Like, it's completely unintentional, but, like, she manages to do stuff that's, like, supposed to be completely impossible. Like, when we go all the way back to, like, even when we go all the way to, like, Super, where she invents time travel, and then they start, in Dragon Ball Super, the gods start talking about how the gods tabooed time travel, and nobody should be able to do time travel, and she's just like, nah, I just made one.
Yeah, she is the Bulma. She is the most technologically advanced person ever in the history of the world, forever. She will make all the coolest stuff, which is why she is the richest woman in the world.
That, and they have a monopoly on the transport industry, but, you know.
Yeah. Episode 4. This is the Oolong episode, his big introduction, who will be a mainstay of the cast. And like this episode starts off, and I have to just make my complaints immediate. Goku's guard was completely down. He took an axe to the head, and it shattered.
No.
It shattered. How could Goku do that when his guard was down? We have established that if your guard is down, if you don't have your ki up, like, how dare this gag manga break show's continuity? I am disgusted. Other than that, everything else is fine.
I'm just gonna ignore you just said that.
But yeah, so yeah, this is like a great looking episode too. Like, I would say like all these episodes looked fairly good. Like, episode 1 looked fantastic because, you know, you had Maeda. Episode 2 looked really good too. Episode 3, I would say, is the weakest, and that's an Uchiyama episode. But it's Uchiyama's staff, but it's still perfectly serviceable. It doesn't look bad at all.
Like that also makes sense because it's like the first few episodes, like even like Dragon Ball Super, which we know how crappy the production of that was at the start. Like the first 4 episodes looked pretty decent. It wasn't until episode 5 that it collapsed. So
yeah, like I really wonder like what the production must have been like for Dragon Ball whenever it first started, because, you know, like you have like Dr. Slump, and it's just like, well, shit, Dr. Slump's ending. Like, it's like, I guess we're just gonna keep moving on to the next Toriyama product, and they just completely seamlessly transition, because like the last episode of Dr. Slump starts with or ends with a next episode preview for the first episode of Dragon Ball, which is kind of crazy to think that this, like, you know, they just kept on going. It just never stopped, which is really impressive that they were able to just completely shift productions over, like, you know, get the staff in order, get everything prepared for this new show that's going to be new music and new character designs and new everything. And they just, without missing a beat, they just go from Dr. Slump to Dragon Ball. And they really had their production in line for this. Like, they did a damn good job.
And then they went from Dragon Ball to Dragon Ball Z, and then from Dragon Ball Z to Dragon Ball GT. Like, from what, like the early 80s to like 1997, Toei were working on a Toriyama property like non-stop. Like, that is crazy.
Yeah,
that is actually crazy.
Yeah, and they carried over a lot of the same staff every time. Just, you know, there's just like, oh well, like, you know, like a lot of the same animators, writers, directors, you know, and like as productions would go on, obviously like people are gonna drop off, but, you know, they kept it really, really, you know, just really smooth running. Like, at no point does, like, I mean, you know, I would say, like, whenever Uchiyama started soloing entire episodes to animate, that's when the production started getting way more inconsistent because his art quality was just not up to snuff.
I mean, then again, and there's still, like, Ebisawa one. I actually don't know about how Ebisawa's episodes worked. Yeah,
Ebisawa was another one that was, like, I feel like he was never quite as bad as Uchiyama, because I feel like Uchiyama was the bottom tier. But yeah, it's, oof. But yeah, anyhow, with episode 4, though, I was really proud of myself, because this is the first time I've ever had, like one of those AJ moments where I was watching Dragon Ball, and I go, is that, because, like, you know, there are these little subtle movements in Goku and in the animation, and I was just like, is that oh snap, is that Maeda? No way, Maeda did episode 1. And I looked it up and I was just like, oh shit, Maeda also animated episode 4. That's crazy. Like, that man put in like this top tier quality episode for episode 1. And then 3 weeks later comes back and he just drops episode 4. And I would say episode 4 looks better than episode 1. Like, it's a great looking episode. There's so much little subtlety in the animation. It's really well directed. It's really well just put together. It's a great looking episode from beginning to end, and I loved it. Yeah, it's just, but I mean, like I said, Maeda, like he is the king.
I'm trying to think about what kind of circumstances would make him be on episode 1 and 4. I guess I'm just assuming that maybe they just had a lot of time, like at the end of Doctor Slump, where they got a lot of those episode buffers up somehow, while also working on Dr. Slump, which is still crazy. But I mean, then again, like Super, they were still doing stuff with Kai, so I don't know. So it is interesting, but yeah, it's great that like Dragon Ball still generally looks pretty consistently good most of the time.
Right? Yeah, I imagine that they would have had to,
or at least in my rewatch of the first 4 episodes, there was never a point where I'm like, oh wow, the quality's dropped immensely. Maybe we'll later on, if that happens, because we are not going to try and go through the entire series. If that does happen, I think I will point it out because might as well.
Yeah, definitely going to be the same here because I know there's some later on in the tournament. I know there's going to be an episode where it's not necessarily poorly drawn, but it's really poorly edited, and I'll get into that when we get to that part. But but like this episode though, it really does look fantastic. Maeda just really brought his A game. I don't know how this man did this. 3 weeks later, boom, here's a new full episode. It looks amazing, but yeah, it's great stuff. We get the introduction of Oolong. He's the transforming pig boy, who's a total pervert, and that is the entirety of his character. That'll be the entirety of his character until the end of the series. He will never grow or develop. He's just kind of...
I feel like you're selling him a little bit short there. I mean, for one thing...
He is fairly short, to be fair.
Oh, god damn it. No, but I mean, for one thing, he is one of those few characters who actually does have the Journey to the West counterpart, and it is very obvious. I'm pretty sure it's Zhubeiji, I think that's who it is. If I've got it wrong, I've never actually properly read Journey to the West. I am planning to at some point, because why not? But anyway, who is one of Tripitaka's traveling companions as well, and he's like, yeah, it is a pig, and the pig can also transform, I guess, because so can Sun Wukong. And he's like, but still it's like, what I find so interesting is that sort of stuff that I've seen about Journey to the West is that like, Zhubeiji tries things a lot of the time, but he's still like nowhere near as strong or as competent as Sun Wukong, and it's just like, oh my god, it's literally everyone and Goku. It's literally the same thing. But yes, it's like I feel like that, and also his kind of relative, almost kind of like cowardice as well. It is what is based on that other Journey to the West character, and it's probably partly it is why the reason as to why he's there as a traveling companion to begin with in Dragon Ball. But obviously in this episode, in fact, I don't even know if we know that Oolong is going to be a traveling companion by this episode. I think we only really see him as a villain, which is this shape-shifting pig. And yeah,
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, he's this shape-shifting pig, and it's like you almost wouldn't be it wouldn't be too surprising if you thought that this was just like a one-off villain, because at least if you didn't know about anything to Journey to the West, because it's like, especially because nowadays it like. So in stuff like this entire plot of this episode, once again, it feels like this very classic fairy tale kind of thing. Like, oh, they end up in a random village, but the village is in distress because this mysterious monster has been showing up every time, and he's been kidnapping all the women, and now he's going to kidnap this girl next, and they need to go and stop them. So I don't know if it's always a common thing that the main character goes and pretends to be the hostage so they can go and find where they are and then beat them up. But it's like, it's funny because especially with this episode, there is an episode of Dragon Ball GT much later on down the track that uses almost the exact same plot. Right.
And I mean, even that episode of GT directly references oh yeah, it worked when we fought Oolong or whatever. Yeah. Yeah, this does feel very kind of like, oh no, our village is being taken over by this horrible monster, and he's stealing, honestly, kind of like how the last episode felt really kind of video gamey. Now that I've said that, now that's thought stuck in my mind, because it's just the characters get to the village and oh no, the like the monster has like been kidnapping girls, and we have to go fight the evil monster. But like the big evil monster is really just this tiny little pervert pig boy who just wants a cute girl, and apparently he lacks social skills, so he just kidnaps them.
I mean, to be fair, I feel like calling it video gamey is a little bit, like, not necessarily true, because, I mean, after all, this was, like, 1984, 1985. I mean, video games had just started. Like, heck, Toriyama was drawing designs for Dragon Quest probably around this time, like, probably, like, the first Dragon Quests, like, the ones where they probably did have plots like this, but it's, like, they were obviously probably inspired by... actual like fairy tales and stuff, and stories and myths and whatnot. So it's
oh yeah, I'm not saying that like this is like just the video game template that Toriyama's lifting.
Oh no, yeah.
But it's just that like these templates do feel like they this is what like the kind of base templates that you use for like video games. Just the like those things that you would see in them, especially the whole like I feel like the monster kidnapping girls, like that's like pretty much like the plot of like every Mario game. Like it is like the tale as old as time like storyline of, oh no, the monster is stealing our girls and stuff, and we have to like, and it's kind of plot lines that you don't see anymore, like at least not in like anime or movies or manga or fantasy and stuff like that. Like you don't see them like storylines like this told anymore, either maybe because like they're dated or because like they're overused. But yeah, and like the only thing I can really think of that still uses like a plot line like this is just like video games, because it's just like usually like the story is just kind of there to like hold the gameplay together, like especially with like old school platformers and stuff.
But even with this story, like I still like, once again, I feel like I'm gonna keep mentioning this because this is the thing that keeps coming into my head when I'm looking at this, and there's like Toriyama once again puts a twist on it. In this case, there's kind of two twists. The first twist is that it's this big shape-shifting monster, and then his true form is revealed to be this pig dressed like a Chinese communist for some reason, and he's also, despite having all these forms, he's actually a complete weakling and basically only shapeshifts so he can hide that to everyone else. And the second twist happens when Goku like successfully beats him, and they go to the place where he's kidnapped all the girls, and it's like, the girls are totally fine there. In fact, they're kind of the ones who are bossing Oolong around, and Oolong is in fact kind of really regretting the fact that he has these girls in the first place, and he's basically saying, no, listen, take them from my hands. I can't deal with them. They're asking me for too many things. I can't say no. And once again, it is one of those things. Like you think you've seen this story before, even if you feel like you've seen the story before. And in fact, I think a story like this about the kidnapping the girls from the village, and they need to like go and stop them, is exactly the same thing in Journey to the West and one of the stories there. But yeah, once you get to the end, there is this twist, and you're like, oh, I haven't seen it done like this before.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like Toriyama definitely puts like a clever little spin on it, and that's kind of like something I think that gives a lot of early Dragon Ball its value, because he does go to these these old style storytelling tropes. Like the wise old man who gives you things, but oh look, he's a pervert and he wants to see like 16-year-old girl panties. Oh, the monster is terrorizing us and stealing our women. Oh, he's like this little pathetic pig boy. Also, the women are bossing him around and he just wants to get rid of them. Yeah, definitely Toriyama does put like a very like early Toriyama is still really clever Toriyama. Like I feel like people get so sucked into what Dragon Ball becomes later, with the power-ups and the transformations and the like overly intricate story plotline stuff. But like he does like to take just these very basic ideas and then just spin it, and he spins it in really creative, fun ways. And I think that's what really gives, especially this arc, its value, because it is very basic ideas, but it's very basic ideas told in a fresh, different perspective.
Exactly. Like that's because like you could honestly, a lot of the time you could, in fact, if you're just looking at broad strokes, you could say like it is the most kind of like very kind of basic, almost formulaic story you could ever think of. But it's like these minor these details, there's always some kind of twist. I never feel like there is a moment where he plays everything completely straight and it's exactly what you expected it's going to be.
Yeah, no. Toriyama's like I would say like that's one of the things Toriyama really has going for him is that he's, you know, even when he's doing like a normal kind of story, it's not a normal take on it. Like he always, you know, especially because because Dragon Ball, like early Dragon Ball, is meant to be more of a comedy. So and he finds really humorous, creative, like I said, really creative lenses to view these tropes from, and I think it's good stuff. It's good stuff. Oolong, I don't really think he's necessarily a worthwhile character. He's fun for right now. He is fun for right now, but I know what he is going to become later on.
Well, how about we save that for when it actually becomes relevant?
True. I should be a bit more fair, because right now, Oolong in this episode, he is really good. He's really funny. He's, I almost forgot to mention this. The vocal performance for Oolong is fantastic. I don't know if it's the same voice actor for all of the transformations, but if it is, that man has some amazing range. Like, because every character sounded so different from one another, and I thought it was just so goddamn good.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I mean, everybody I think sounds good, but he really shows off his range. And I also love, like, whenever that one kid, like, hits, like, he's, like, in the giant robot form, and this kid just hits him in the back of the head with a rock, and he immediately goes back to, like, regular Oolong voice, even though he's still in his giant robot form.
Oh, yeah, that's one of those things where I'm glad I saw this animated just for this, because this is something that you normally do with having vocal performances with your characters. And honestly, I realized we didn't actually talk about the vocal performances much, which is probably alright, because otherwise we would probably just spend another 20 minutes talking about Masuka Nozawa and how great she is.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
maybe it's good that we saved them, we saved people the trouble, because that's what we did last recording.
Yeah, I was about to say, I do think we wasted a little too much time last time just going like, oh my god, Masuka Nozawa is so great, she's so talented, oh my god, guys.
Oh my god, Masuka Nozawa.
Yeah. But like these first 4 episodes, I think they're a good, strong set of episodes. I don't know a whole lot about Journey to the West, but as far as like kind of these parodies,
I don't know much either. Really, all I know is from like this YouTube series I saw where they've been like doing a kind of fun sort of retelling of this, like doing a kind of like recap of the story with like fun little pictures on it. So that's basically all I know about the main story.
Yeah, like my frames of reference for Journey to the West is I think it was like a Beckett Dragon Ball Collector magazine article. Dragon Ball itself, and a Stephen Chow film that came out like a few. Those are my only frames of reference, and I'm pretty sure outside of that article, the other 2 do not count as actual reference points for Journey to the West. But as far as like just kind of taking these stories as old as time and kind of twisting them and stuff, he twists them in really fun ways. I think all the characters as of right now are really great. Bulma's a lot of fun. Oolong's a lot of fun. Goku being the sweet little innocent boy that he is right now, just kind of being completely ignorant.
He just like effortlessly beats up whoever he needs to be beaten up.
Right? Like,
can I just say that there's something like almost like cathartic about this cliche that happens in Dragon Ball, and it keeps going on, and every time it happens, it's great, and it's just like when this big, often intimidating looking villain sees the main character, and they're like, oh, look at you're just a weakling, or a girl, or like, well, not a girl. I mean, I was thinking girl because Goku's dressed as a girl at that point, but it's like you're short, or you look unassuming, I'm gonna beat you totally. And then there's like that moment where it's just like especially because like you, the audience, oftentimes know just how powerful the main character is, and then it's like they just go and then just like beat them immediately, and you're just like, yeah, that was exactly what I was expecting was going to happen, and it just felt so satisfying.
Yeah. It was. It's good stuff. I definitely. Yeah, I adore Goku's character in this. Like these early episodes, he's a good boy. He's a good boy. They portray him accurately and innocently. I think like probably the most questionable thing you could say about him is he keeps patting girls' crotches, but that's just because he literally doesn't know any better. Like he is so oblivious to like the differences in gender. He can't he doesn't know. So he's just like, well, the only frame of reference I have for what makes a girl and what makes a boy is what's between their legs. Okay, that's a vagina. Gotcha.
Oh god, I've got to say, the point where he does that, and then Bulma just like immediately goes like, no, stop it, don't do that. And it's just hilarious.
Yeah, I wonder if does Bulma do that because she wants him to be a more functional member of society, or does Bulma do that because she doesn't want Goku publicly embarrassing her because she has association with Goku?
Maybe it's a bit of both.
Yeah, maybe. We'll give her the benefit of the doubt and say it's a little bit of column A and column B, and not just say she just doesn't want to be embarrassed. But yeah, something that we didn't bring up, something I wanted to bring up that I forgot about. Oolong, we turned into a giant robot. He manifests soup.
Oh yeah, yes. When we were doing this, we both wrote this down completely independently, and we just found this hilarious. Okay, continue.
Yeah, just Oolong transforms, and he has a bowl of soup, and the bowl of soup is completely independent of the rest of him. He actually dunks his thumb in it, burns himself, goes and drops it. It's did he just lose a pinky when he transforms back? What was that bowl made of? Does he just manifest things? Is it like Piccolo's clothes beam? Does he just manifest other objects with him? Can he manifest an axe to go with himself? I don't know.
Oh god, yeah, it's one of those things, the more you think about it, the funnier it is, and that's why you shouldn't think about it too hard, because it probably doesn't make any sense.
Nope. But yeah, I think that pretty much wraps up everything we wanted to say. Like I said.
Yep, pretty much.
First 4 episodes, good, strong episodes. I like them.
They're fun.
I look forward to seeing the rest. And so yeah, if you guys want to watch along at home, the goal here is that we're going to do 4 episodes every week. So you guys, if you want to go watch these 4 episodes and then go watch the next 4 and get caught up, and then, you have a complete frame of reference for everything we're thinking. If you leave us really good comments, we'll read your comments in future podcasts.
That is your...
if they're good comments.
Exactly. That is your motivation. If you have a really good comment, do a really good comment, and you'll be featured on the next podcast. So
yes,
I think we all know what you need to do now.
Yeah. So yeah, just like I said, good comments will be rewarded by being said on the show. Also, this will be kind of a channel alternating thing between Gabby and myself. So the first one's going to be on this channel, then next one will be on Gabby's, and then we're just going to alternate back and forth between the two of us. And yeah, that's how we're going to do the podcast. Just, so if you want to get the full thing, you probably want to subscribe to both of us and, check with us every week to see these episodes.
Shameless plug.
Yes.
Shameless plug. Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. Yes.
Let's plug.
Let's plug. Yeah. So yeah, that's everything. Until next time, guys. Xeon out.
See ya.